160th Queen's Plate, and Skywire badly inconvenienced out the gate.
All right, we are live on Queen's Plate Day 2020. Big day ahead, Woodbine Live, the culmination of weeks and weeks and weeks of build-up here on ABR channels. Every Thursday night, we've been bringing you Woodbine Live and Queen's Plate, of course, Canada's most prestigious race, North America's oldest continuous race. Today, a little different. It's not usually run in September, but still a great race. We're gonna go through the field. We've got 3 races actually coming up that we're going to go through. We're going to show you the next couple of races. And if you want to watch the Queen's Plate live, you can catch that on TVG and on Canada on CTV and TSN. I'm Dan Tordjman with America's Best Racing. With me today, as always, on Woodbine Live, Emily Gullikson, partner at Optics EQ, and handicapper and analyst at Brisnet. Emily, how we doing?
I'm doing well. Happy Queen's Plate Day.
Happy Queen's Plate. Down below, we've got from Equibase, the Uber capper, Ellis Starr. How you doing, Ellis?
Doing great. Looking forward to some fantastic races today. Except I will say, tell everybody, in case you see me sweating, my air conditioning went out last week.
Fair enough. That's a good disclaimer to give. I'm going to start sweating in about a minute or so, too, because my air conditioner is off. And the only way I get there is if my wife comes in and hits the button, which she may do at some point because she knows she's watching. So when I get a little hot, she'll come in and hopefully help me out. Also joining us from the Champagne and J.D. show, J.D. Fox, making the back-to-back appearance here on our Queen's Plate show. J.D., what's up?
Happy Queen's Plate. And if myself or Emily's air conditioning went out in Arizona, we would not be doing this show. I think that's safe to say.
Yeah, that's a nightmare.
Yeah, you guys have it a little tougher out there than we do over here. But look, welcome in everyone who's watching this afternoon. We are super excited to be bringing you Woodbine Live, Queen's Plate edition. Want to remind you that if you have any questions at any point as we're handicapping these races, as we're betting these races, don't hesitate to drop those questions in the comment section. We're here to answer them. If we're going too fast, if we're saying something that doesn't make sense, just drop us a comment and we'll go back and we'll walk through it. And let's just kick things off here. We've got 3 races. Race 8 will be the first race. It's the Bison City Stakes. Then we've got the Canadian Stakes up next in race 9, and then the Queen's Plate will be race 10. But let's start it off here with the Bison City Stakes, 1 1/16 on the all-weather for 3-year-old fillies. Emily, set this up for us as I pull up the screen here.
Yeah, I have kind of everybody's ideas because we talked a little bit about this race last night. I think we're kind of all taking the sort of a similar approach in here. The number 2, Fleet Catherine, as expected, is a massive favorite. She was 1-2 at the first click, currently 3-5. Looks kind of every bit of the horse to beat when you look at her on paper. She's run fast. She ran a good second in the Woodbine Oaks last time out. And so, those factors make her really logical. She's fast enough. She's classy enough. My concern with her in this spot is just doing kind of too much too soon. She's improved with each race. She had a little bit of a setup kind of in her first 2 races, a favorable trip on debut, blanket finish, prevailing in her second start. And even in the Woodbine Oaks, the question that day was the distance for the class. And sometimes, when you have these kind of lightly raced horses and they're doing a lot too soon, that can kind of put them over the top. So that's kind of the angle here. Is it's not a factor of, is she good enough to compete? We clearly know that. But is this spot kind of the right spot for her? And you have other horses in here that are legit contenders. On the screen right now is number 8, Gun Society. I think she's legit in this spot. She's been facing older horses in her last 2 races. She's improving with each race, going back in her form to last year. She has a stakes win over this course and distance, so she kind of checks those boxes. A couple horses that we like. I feel like I don't want to take everybody's thunder, so I'm going to go fast on them. Number 5, Pseudonym, Shipping In. Legit speed. She looks great. I saw her in the paddock. Looks really good. Good conditioning on her. And the way this course has been playing, being inside and speed, that might help her out. And both Dan and I are interested on the rail horse as well, a maiden. I know she's a big price. She is a maiden. But it's hard to fault any race. And I'm sure he's watching replays and watched the last race, how that was just such a much better than look race, wide move. So she has ability, and being inside, like we said, is probably favorable. So that could help her out today.
Emily, before I move on and get thoughts from everyone else, I wanted to talk about what we've seen thus far today. And since you track trip notes professionally here, you track trips professionally for your trip notes. What have you seen in terms of potential biases on the turf courses?
Yeah, I think it's probably safe to say, but definitely have a little bit more data in terms of the turf, that being inside is the place to be. When you're wide, I mean, it's pretty much just draw a line through the race. The winners are all coming from the inside. We've had a couple horses that have been able to kind of be, outside and making up ground, but being inside has been a real advantage this afternoon.
JD, I know the last race, you struck a little bit of luck there with Alicia's Kid. You were also talking about this potential issue of horses traveling wide and wanting to not pick horses who might potentially end up doing that. How does that factor into the way you look at this race?
Well, in this case, I like Pseudonym going into the race, and I think it just kind of steps up my case for the horse shipping in from Gulfstream Park, obviously for Saffie Joseph Jr. And to quickly take an aside here, obviously when we were talking about American trainers today, they're obviously not on the grounds, and their assistant trainers aren't even on the grounds based on the travel restrictions. They're really shipping into other barns and have other people helping them out that are local to the track. So keep that in mind when we discuss this. But obviously an Ontario bred in a perfect spot here, has steadily progressed with the turf tries at 1 mile and a 16th, and last time showed great speed and hung on, shook clear, responded to a couple different challengers. Really impressive performance. And going back to the dam Gauze, while Gauze did not run on synthetic, most of her offspring have done very, very well on the synthetic surfaces with a variety of sires. So I do think this is a positive move and a smart move. I don't think this horse is going to have any problems on the surface switch and might even improve a little bit on the surface switch.
All right. Ellis, how about you?
I really, and I nobody really stole the thunder here. I think we have a lot of ways to go if you don't like the favorite. And I don't think Fleet Catherine is a complete standout. Curlin's Voyage is tough. I think she's a little overbet based on the race. Of course, she's bred really well, and she's improving. And it's interesting. As a side note, we'll see if she runs really well. Then, if everybody knows, is the Queen's Plate, which is my Woodbine race of the day. I really like Merlieu, and that really flatters her. I don't know we'll get a price anymore on that one, but I like Gun Society here as the bet. The price is just really square. The last race was really good. The Eternal Search on the grass. She was 4 wide, then 3 wide. She moved. She led. She got beat. Was first in blinkers. Second in blinkers might be even better. She's already a stakes winner on the all-weather around 2 turns. She won the South Ocean last year. She beat Owlette. Really nice filly. She's on a good pattern of sprint, route into this. She's interesting. And Emily and J.D. that might follow Woodbine better would know, but it's just I don't think I've seen many horses that are bred, owned, and trained by Roger Atfield. And Society's chairman, when you use a tool like Stats Racelines, which I did, and you can click a box to look at just state-bred and restricted races, boy, he is really good. He's like the Square Eddie in California. Just fantastic. 6 for 11, all-weather route stakes the last few years, including Karen, Preferred Guest, Sparkles Girl, and Karen won this race in 2016. I love the 4 furlong work. So that's why I'm really sold here on Gun Society. Certainly not going to single or anything, but that's my win bet. That's my key. I'm using a Fleet Catherine. I'm also using the 6, Just Leave It Alone. That race 3 back to Curlin's Voyage in the Fury was really good. Shipped up, went back to Churchill after the 5th place finish in the Oaks, shipped up again, had some trouble in that race. Has tactical speed, didn't show it last out. If Just Leave It Alone, I think shows some tactical speed, sits second or third early, could get a nice piece here. And right now, decent price, 10 to 1, a little less than I thought, actually.
Yeah, and going back to the Fury Stakes, I think that helps state your claim a little bit here that Just Leave It Alone is a decent price here, 10 to 1, because finished a length in front of Infinite Patience, who then went out in the Oaks and set a 23 flat opening quarter and really faded badly. So really interesting to see the price difference between the 7, who's your second choice right now at 5 to 1, bet down from a 12 to 1 morning line, and the 6. Just Leave It Alone, who is also bet down from a 20 to 1 morning line, but at 11 to 1, actually 10 to 1 now.
And I wonder if that has something. Yeah, go ahead, Emily.
I was going to add to the, as far as Ellis mentioning, her not being able to get on the pace last time out in the Woodbine Oaks, that was a very, very, very fast pace, both the opening quarter and the 6 furlong time. So, you just kind of have to keep that in mind. She was just kind of outrun at that level. I don't think she has the speed to make the lead in here. Both probably the 5, the 4, and the 7, even the 3 to some extent. All seem quicker to her the first call, but that, maybe just works in her favor if she's able to kind of get over and get some cover.
And I was just going to say that, I wonder if the money that Infinite Patience is taking here, the 7 horse, is some reflection of the fact that everyone who's been watching and betting today has seen horses go to the front and stay there. And Infinite Patience is one who's certainly very, very quick and who figures to be the one, on the lead, certainly for most of the race. The horse that I landed on, Emily touched on it a little bit earlier, the 1 horse Ballroom of Mars. This is a horse who's going to be coming from off the pace likely. And, though still a maiden, she actually ran a really nice race last out. She was sitting well off a very, very slow pace, so she was forced to make a wide and early move before the turn, and that was just to get on terms with the horses, just so she could track the pace setters a little closer. She got there and then still kicked on with the 6 horse here, Just Leave It Alone. It looked like she might even be able to go by there, but she just sort of hung, and she didn't even look tired. She just didn't go by. And then I watched the replay from the race 2 back, where she overcame a wide trip again. She looked like she had the momentum to roll past them late, but with only 1 horse in front of her, she just stopped advancing again. Then there was a horse who kind of passed her on the outside. Then she dug back in and then nearly went by the horse that she initially refused to pass. So I think the addition of blinkers here makes a whole lot of sense. Trainer Catherine Day Phillips, first time blinkers on over the past 5 years, 27% from a 44 starter sample. Nearly half of those have hit the board. So you've got good numbers to back it up. And this is a horse visually who just looks like she needs blinkers. I'm assuming, Emily, that was part of the reason that you were on this one a bit too.
Yeah, I saw all the same things that you did, just that positive progression, just kind of needing the races, having those trips, starting to figure it out. And I agree. I think at this point, it's a smart addition of blinkers with her. There she is on the track right now, warming up. And again, having that inside post that just might be, that little bump. It's not that she's that far. She's a little bit slower than some of these other horses, but again, they have a little bit more seasoning and have had those, more opportunities. We talk about trips. That does impact speed figures a lot of the time, but, physically she looks great on the track. Distance is fine. And that's kind of my concern with the number 7, Infinite Patience, is the distance. I don't think she really wants to go. She definitely didn't want to go the 9 furlongs in the Oaks. She looks kind of more one turn to me. So I think there's some stamina concerns with her. And, her being the second choice, not really that interested in landing there.
Wanted to touch on the 3 horse a bit more. Truth Hurts. Chad Summers, not exactly a trainer you see at Woodbine a whole lot, but sends this one here. And this one was farther back than usual last out when she was drawn wide at Ellis in the Audubon Stakes. That race had plenty of early speed, including Monday Call. Truth Hurts finished just behind Sconson, who, of course, came back to win the 8 Bells last week. She's been in against tougher, but I think she has to show the ability here to pass some horses late because she certainly doesn't look fast enough to hang in there early. I don't know what your thoughts were on Truth Hurts. And right now at 9-1, is sort of just an interesting horse. I don't know that I'm confident enough to say that I'd put a win bet on her, but it's sort of an interesting horse to me.
I think no races and no works on the all-weather is a big red flag when you've got fillies that have been running on it or working on it at least. There's not a single other horse in the race except Pseudonym who hasn't run or worked on all-weather at some point. And even Pseudonym's going turfed all-weather, which I think is an okay transition, where this one's been running Truth Hurts only on dirt. Certainly the pattern stretching out off a fairly even running line, 5 lengths back, 3 lengths back, 4 lengths back is a line that suggests that the horse can be much closer to the pace. 3.5 off a 45-second half stretching out could put the horse on the lead even and gets Hernandez. I don't know what the strategy is going to be. Chad's had a few good horses. It's just a lot of red flags for me. And I think at that point, especially at 8-1, I couldn't touch it.
And I was just doing a quick search. Yeah, this is Chad's first start at Woodbine ever as a trainer.
No, It seems like it. I mean, I can't recall seeing Chad.
The math backed up the gut feel.
Yeah. Our good friend Daily Double SW here saying, like Emily, I think is sort of angling for, and like all of us are, hoping that we can make some money here. The 2 runs poorly here, potentially. We'll see. There's a bit of regression off that last race. He's going to bet $10 to win on the 5 and $2 exact to all 5 at 5 against Pseudonym, who we've talked about a little bit here. In looking at the next couple of races, there's a pick 6 that starts here. There's a pick 5 that starts here. There's also a pick 3 that starts here. I'll open it up to see if anyone's got a pick 3 ticket. It looks like Chad Summers is actually on the screen now with an interview, right as we called his name, with the Woodbine track feed. I'm in on a pick 5 starting in this race. And the other thing is, if you're going to sit through the Queen's Plate and wager on the Queen's Plate, you can't just leave after that, because you've got a mandatory payout in the jackpot high 5 in the last race. I think there's something like 225,000 or so in that pool, and there's a mandatory payout there in the last race. So you're going to want to stick around for that. Also, speaking of money, I just want to mention with the Dark Horse app, if you download the Dark Horse app by the end of today, you put in any bet. It could be a couple of bucks to show on a horse. If you win, you do a screen grab on Dark Horse and you tweet it at Dark Horse app and use the hashtag #WinWithDarkHorse. You're eligible to win $10,000. They're going to choose somebody randomly in the next couple of days to win $10,000. And all you got to do is download the app and just screen capture any winning bet. So be sure you do that. Open to all Canadian residents of legal wagering age. And so download Dark Horse. This would be the time to do it. So yeah, just opening it up real quick. I know the horses are about to go in. Pick 3s, anybody?
I played a few of them, actually. 20 cents, I actually played 5 tickets. But my main ticket is the 268 in this race, a Fleet Catherine, Just Leave It Alone, Gun Society. And the 9th, I played 235 10, Court Return, Elizabeth Way, another time, and the favorite, Cambier Park. And in the last race, I played Mervilo, the 2, quick, the 6 Halo again, the 10 Curlin's Voyage, and the 12 Clayton.
Yeah, I'm off Cambier Park in the next one. I'm here for my pick 3. I'm 5 with 3, 5, 9 with 2, 5, 6, 10, 12, 14 in the Queen's Plate, and I played that for $1 for some fun.
Okay. I'll get the sound going here so we can all listen in on the race call of the 8th race, the Bison City Stakes. Let me know if you're not hearing sound. Are you not hearing sound?
Not yet, but that might just be
I think I may have muted it here. All right, now we can hear some sound.
And they're off.
Better?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear it.
Driving near the inside a little bit, going out in front of Infinite Patience from the outside to be the leader narrowly from Mizzen Bow. Up near the rail, Truth Hurts, a Fleet Catherine pushing up just behind the top trio, now settling in 4th. And off the rails goes Ballrooms of Mars as they go into the turn from Just Leave It Alone, Pseudonym. And at the back is Gun Society. Mizzen Bow is in front. A half Infinite Patience and 2.5 lengths away. 3rd is Truth Hurts, a length to Ballrooms of Mars. Back on the inside of Fleet Catherine. A length to Just Leave It Alone. They're 3.5 to Pseudonym, who's relaxed second last. At last, Gun Society. Showing the way through a first quarter in 23 and 2. It is
kind of weird the one got off the rail today.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Did you have Mizzen Bow on the lead over Infinite Patience?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah.
The plan on Pseudonym appeared to be to come from the back. Very just relaxed, no urging from Contreras early on.
There she goes. There's the urging. Are we excited that it's 6-7 wide? Not so much.
No.
Yeah, the four is a square out in front, so she's got some finish. She could definitely hold here.
I mean, she's looking good.
She looks pretty tough.
It's 4 or 5 at this stage looking at it.
Eight's making a move, but
Yeah, 8's making a move.
I don't know. This is going to be tough.
Running into second is a Fleet Catherine with on the outside Pseudonym and Gun Society.
Well, we're right about one thing here. Bust on the 2.
I believe Mizzen Bow was the only horse we didn't talk about at all.
No, I mentioned her.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, if it wasn't, today as being one of the pace setters, definitely last night and on the radio. So I might have missed it here, but yeah. Yeah,
Well,
just because she looked like she just looked on the plot to have that pace advantage. They just couldn't, when you're against the favorite, can't let those ones go.
Got double the morning line on her, 4-1 morning line, and 8-1 for your winner.
Well, I'm going to give credit to Go Philly, Sherry, whom I played a ticket with here, and who I was like, oh God, we're out in the first leg of the pick 5. She must have added Mizenbo because I certainly did not give her Mizenbo. So go Sherry. Nice job with that one. Looking at some of the comments here to see if we've got any winners. Who finished second there? I didn't even catch that.
It's very
It's a
tight.
photo between the two and whoever's ever on the inside.
It was Fleet Catherine and Truth Hurts.
Yeah, it's Truth Hurts, yeah.
Jimmy
Who
Crow.
battled a Fleet Catherine as if they were going for the win. That was a heck of a battle for second after the winner was already well known. I mean, the Truth Hurts looked like she put away. Fleet Catherine, she might have just got the bob at the end, but Truth Hurts ran really, really well on the rail.
Yeah, Pseudonym looked to have broke out and was pretty rank actually at the start. I missed that on first viewing, so that might have explained the trip a little bit.
And Gun Society was 8 wide on the turn, and
all those horses that are wide are just so up against it.
Yeah, Fleet Catherine. I think a Fleet Catherine actually ran, about as well as I could have expected her to run. She ran big last out, and you thought that day. I want to say she was something like 15-1 or 12-1 on the morning line, bet down to second choice, and so the word was out that day. Obviously, she was doing well at that point. And to run that as big a race as she did there and come back here and run this race, I think is pretty impressive.
There was no place.
Into the Oaks.
Sorry.
Okay, I was just saying, going into the Oaks, there was a lot of people that really liked her off those first 2 races. So she's a good filly. This just was kind of like I said, just maybe a little bit too much too soon, just too much of a quick turnaround. Probably going to see at least 45 days off before she comes back. My guess. What were you gonna say, JD? Sorry.
I was just gonna say I was surprised there was no real place or show pool jumping on a Fleet Catherine in this spot, given the circumstances and kind of the hype coming in off of the strong performance in the Oaks. But just gonna have some pretty traditional standard payoffs here. Obviously, even if a Fleet Catherine wouldn't hit the board, is what I was saying, it would have been pretty normal.
So we've got 2 races still to go, or 1 race until the big one, and then 2 races from now is the Queen's Plate. I'm wondering, just wanted to pass it around. I know you've all got various connections to Woodbine. If you have a favorite Queen's Plate memory, Ellis, I'll start with you. Is there anything when you look back at the Queen's Plate that stands out to you, whether it was a big hit or an emotional victory for any particular reason that stands out to you?
No, nothing. But it always amazes me when I remind myself how well fillies do. 37 editions, 2 of the last 3. That just doesn't happen in racing. That the fillies that entered this race prove that I guess 3-year-old fillies in usually the spring are bigger, stronger than their male counterparts, and to win that many high percentage with as few entries as fillies have in this race has always been kind of intriguing to me.
Yeah, some good ones over the years. JD, how about you?
I mean, there's lots of good ones, but the thing that comes top of mind here is that I'm actually at home able to watch it. The last 2 renditions, I'm usually traveling for my primary business, and the last 2 renditions, I lined up my flights on United to make sure I could watch in the air the Queen's Plate. So that's how important and how big this race is to me as part of my year as somebody who follows Woodbine as a primary circuit, but also just kind of enjoying, being able to watch the race and the performances that we've seen over the last couple of years. Obviously, Sir Dudley Diggs is that's a big memory for me. That was just an awesome horse, and Lexi Lou. Back to 2014. Those are 2 horses that stick out. But there's been so many good winners in this race.
Emily?
I don't have any good memories. I know Ashley brought up last year. All Our bad. I'm just kind of not like a nostalgic. I'm a quick turn the page type.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know. I'm just
Race
I'm
night.
wired differently than most. Exactly. We're like, we got that high five coming up. I'll get as excited about a claimer at a price at a big race. But similar. Ashley brought up last year with the Baltus horse that's came in. Big Bad Boy or whatever his name was.
One Bad Boy.
One Bad Boy wiring the field, and those are the things that like will stick with me, that I'll get as mad of like, why would they let a horse get a lone lead? Like, I just get more disappointed of like, we do all this analysis of the race and you really want to see it play out. Like this year, I'm really interested in the race because I'm not crazy about either favorite, which means there's a lot of scenarios that could happen, right? They could win, they couldn't, whatever. So I want to see, like, I want to see a race, right? And I'll be really disappointed if one horse just is allowed to go out there and like not create a race out of it. So those are the things that I'll typically remember.
One memory that did trip my mind, Dan, is because this has come up a lot with me following Woodbine as my primary circuit. No, I was not on the horse Mike Fox back in 2007. Yeah. I mean, I don't know why, but I was not. But one of the other memories from that is Emma Jane Wilson obviously won that race and became the first female jockey to win the Queen's Plate. So that's a special one that always sticks in my head, even if the horse had a similar name to mine. I mean, just a common name, Fox. I mean, you would have thought I was on that horse, but I faded that horse that day. And back in my days in California, watching that race at Cal Expo of all places. Go figure that one out.
And I get that phenomenon of like, sort of like, you would think like, you've got a horse with your name in their name, you'd play it, but almost as like sort of hardened horse players, were like, we stubbornly were like, no, because of that reason, I am not betting this horse. And that was my issue with Wise Dan, unfortunately, for all these damn years. And I ended up losing a lot of money because of it. I kept trying to beat Wise Dan. Not very smart.
Fox Wedge is a leading sire in Australia, and everybody always asks, because pretty much any night of the week there's a horse with the name Fox in it. Like, are you betting? And like, if I bet all of these horses with Fox in the name, I would have no money to actually bet using logic or reasoning or mathematical equations, any of those things. So,
I want to go back to something Emily said a moment ago about pace or speed horse getting loose in the Queen's Plate, and you're looking at usually a very large field, 14 horses, and you're like, how could they have let this horse get loose? My memory that stands out from the Queen's Plate was the first Queen's Plate I ever attended. It was in 2013. I had actually made some friends through Twitter who lived near Woodbine, who were like, hey, you should come up, stay with us, and this and that. And these are people that, like, I mean, one guy in particular who I'd known for maybe 6 months on Twitter. So he's inviting me to stay at his house. And naturally, after 6 months of knowing him through Twitter, I accepted. And so I went up to Woodbine and...
Naturally, naturally, yes.
A little bit. I'm being a little facetious there, but I mean, it turned out well. It turned into a really, really good friendship over these years. He's spectacular. And so, but I remember doing all this work, all this handicapping, and I kept going back to Midnight Aria, and I kept looking at the horse. I'm like, this horse has got some speed, is on the rail, is going to get to the front, but surely somebody will go with this horse. No, they didn't. And the horse ended up wiring at 16-1. Emily mentioned it a moment ago, but I wanted to take a look back at the stretch run of the 2019 Queen's Plate. One Bad Boy for Richard Baltus with Flavian Pratt up, got to the lead early, and this is what happened late.
And they raced out by 2 lengths to Tonebroke. The rest are well back and down the home stretch. It is a battle royale. One Bad Boy and Avies Platter, stride to stride, a furlong to run. One Bad Boy, never looked better and has got the Queen's Plate well and truly won. One Bad Boy, 3 lengths. Avies Platter second, Tonebroke third. He's a Macho Man fourth, and Desert Ride was fifth, 2-2-98.
Emily, I take it from your tone, you did not cash last year on the Queen's Plate. Did anyone?
No, as that replay was going, I'm like, I think I bet this 8. as I'm like watching this horse close from off the pace with like no pace to close into, I think that was my play last year. I can go back through and look at my notes, but yeah, no, I was actually kind of against him last year, and he tripped out. I think we had a similar day. I could maybe pull this up when we have some time leading into the race. A similar type day in terms of the way that the track was playing, but the track was really favoring that certain run style, which made, giving a horse a lone lead on a track bias that much more annoying. But yeah, I'll pull that up.
I'm wondering, if there's going to be, if history repeats itself today. I know Ashley, as you mentioned, brought that up yesterday in our Queen's Plate preview show. I wonder if there's going to be a repeat. I know she brought it up within the context of potentially Halo again going to the lead and doing that today. J.D. Ellis, do you think that's a possibility? And if not Halo again, do you think another horse could potentially pull that off?
Let J.D. go, and I'll chime in if you have thought. If not,
yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm picking Halo again on top. That's the trip I would definitely prefer. But who I have, kind of up there with him is Tecumseh's War, and I think Tecumseh's War. I mean, if he breaks out of the gate, I think he'll get the lead. I might be alone in this room, but I think if we get a clean break finally from the 14, I think the 14 has no choice but to rush up and clear the field and try to get over, and that's the run that can get it. So why I like Halo again is even if that happens, I don't think that necessarily is bad for Halo again to sit just off the speed as well.
Yep. Ellis?
I was kind of guessing, and I neglected to look at what just the pace projector for Stats Raceland says, and all of a sudden now I can't get to it.
I can try to pull it up as you're talking. I'll let you know.
I'm back on it now.
Okay.
Just because for some reason I went to Woodbine, everything was fine, and I went to the pace projector page because I use that when I think a race is kind of a chaosy kind of a race and have really no idea what is going to happen in the pace. And in this case, going mile and a quarter, it doesn't matter a whole lot. We know there's no true E. I'll tell you the projected leader is Tecumseh's War, who I think you just mentioned.
Yeah, well, JD,
so I'm a length and a half off of 111. I could see it projected to have a couple lengths lead off a number of horses. There's nobody adding blinkers, I believe, which is something I always check for. And Dotted Line went leading on a slow pace last out in the plate trial. Halo again. Same thing, play trial. I think they just kind of defaulted into that position. Somebody's going to have to go a little bit. So, for example, the 4 True Believe, if you're looking for somebody that might try and pull one off, added blinkers 2 back, sprinted, and then went for the lead on a slow pace and allowance race, that might be the strategy. The only option is to go. But it's going to be, I wouldn't say horrendously slow, but I can't expect to see anything faster than 49 and change, maybe even 50 here to the half, unless Tecumseh's War in getting the lead early ends up going pretty fast the first quarter. Then by default, it could end up being about 47 as it was in the allowance race where he was about a length off.
Mm-hmm. I would, and I agree that there, you have to consider these things and take speed with a grain of salt when you're looking at route races generally. But I think in this instance, I would sort of push back a little bit on the idea that speed doesn't necessarily matter. Going a mile and a quarter doesn't matter as much, just because I think with these particular horses, when you're looking at a race restricted to Ontario sired horses, you're going to have a lot of horses who just cannot get a mile and a quarter. And I think if you're a horse that could find yourself on the front end or pretty close to the front end, logically, if you're going to tire at that point, there are going to be a bunch of horses behind you who are tiring at just the same rate, if not more. And so I think you logically stand a better chance of holding on to a placing, if not winning. And so I think in this instance, I really do want a horse who's going to the front, even if the horse is an extreme long shot and has a history of backing up. I think even if they back up, if they get to the front, if they back up at sort of roughly the same rate as some of these other horses who haven't gone a mile and a quarter yet are going to back up, that still puts them ahead of those horses. And I know that's a very sort of oversimplified explanation for why I would want a speed horse in this race, but that's generally why I would want a speed horse in this race.
But if there was there's only really one speed horse that's ever backed up in this race, and it's True Believe. I mean, we have a lot of cases where we have a lot of horses that are on the lead. I don't know if you call a speed horse in this race. But again, it's Ontario sired horses here and not a lot of races, so it's tough to say. So like True Believe last time out in that allowance race that Clayton won, I mean, that's as close on paper as you're going to get to a speed and fade. Everybody else kind of just runs steadily, and a lot of these horses run one paced, which is also the interesting thing when you're trying to look at the speed, because in those type of situations, sometimes if you get a horse that's easy out on front like Halo again or Tecumseh's War and can spread out these one paced horses, I mean, it's going to make a lot of traffic trouble for somebody that we know that can close like Ollie My Boy and make that trip even harder for them if everybody else is just kind of plodding along behind and not really passing anybody else.
Emily's back with us.
Hi. Did you guys talk about anything interesting, like the pace scenario of the Queen's Plate? And I missed anything good?
That's all we talked about, actually, as you can tell, as you return to the stream. But I will say, I do want to save some of it for our big discussion, which will come up after this race. We're going to have a lot of time between the conclusion of the Canadian Stakes Race 9, which is coming up now in 19 minutes, and the Queen's Plate, which will come up at 5:41 Eastern. So stay with us. We'll get Emily's thoughts. We'll get more from Ellis and J.D. But for now, we're looking at a Canadian Stakes here with two scratches, Theodora B and Runway Dreamer, the 1 and the 7. Theodora B was one of the few in here that you might have expected to show some early speed. Without her, there's no obvious pace setter in this race. Maybe number 5, Another Time, who's taking a little bit of action, 8-1 right now. But the headliner, without a doubt, is Cambier Park, the 10 horse in for Chad Brown. Back-to-back Grade 1 wins last year. And the question is going to be ultimately, is there any way around Cambier Park? And I would imagine that any argument you make against Cambier Park begins with the fact that this is a pretty long layoff to come back off of. So let's see, who should we do? You guys want to like virtually arm wrestle for it, or pinky wrestle, or thumb wrestle? Who wants it?
I want to hear JD talk about why he's against her. That's intriguing to me completely. It sounded like you were completely against her, so I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I just look at this layoff, 336 days, and obviously, Chad Brown is Chad Brown. He does really well on these layoffs. But the one thing I don't normally see from Chad Brown in this is we see a lot of works and we see some quick works. I just don't necessarily like the amount of works, because I'm also thinking about it from the fact that there are 9 published works. So there were works prior to those 9 published works, and obviously they were pointing to this race, which makes sense. But at a certain point, would it be better to have this be the second up race and to find a spot to get a more public workout, for lack of a better term, for this horse? So I'm just wondering there, and I'm trying to, I guess, try to wise guy, because obviously if you just go on class alone, I mean, this horse is head and shoulders above the rest of the field. But I'm just concerned with the layoff line and the amount of works and what that could potentially mean. Of course, that could just mean that the horse is going to be in really good shape and win by 6 here. But there's enough there that makes me wonder if there's more to the story than that.
Emily?
I think that she's legit in this spot. Again, it's like, not all layoffs are treated equally. I think that she's been pointed to this spot. She's a 4-year-old. It's not like, she's a 6-year-old mare. What's going to happen off this type of layoff? But with that said, I mean, you do have that layoff at a short price. So there's reasons to be against from that value standpoint. Coming back in the spot, she does have class to her. She was running in tough spots, running in Grade 1 races, has those pair of Grade 1 wins, kind of works at her own trip. So she has tactical speed and enough speed to kind of put herself in this race. We talk about the pace scenario. Yes, there's not any real true E runners, but both the 3, 5, 8, and 10 can kind of take up that EP role. So it does look like that, I would be surprised if somebody went out and went lone in here. Between the 5 and the 8, they kind of seem like they're going to have to kind of put themselves in that race right away. And the same thing with the 3. I think she does her best running when she's kind of out in front and in the clear. And that was sort of a mistake last time out, is just sort of letting Theodora B, who scratched, go. So I don't think they'll make that same mistake twice. And again, I have a hard time being against Cambier Park in here, but I can appreciate, trying to play against at a short price. In terms of the pace scenario, in terms of maybe a one that's going to be on the improve in here, I would look at Art of Almost. She just did not get a pace scenario last time out. She was against the flow and just kind of unable to get into the race. So really not seeing the best of her there, but she was coming into the race sort of the right way. Distance-wise was a little bit of a concern there as well. So I think this is kind of a good spot for her to reverse. But again, I think they are going to have to beat number 10, Cambier Park. Somebody's going to have to step up in order for that to be the case.
Ellis, Emily made an interesting point here, that although there's no obvious sort of standout speed or need the lead type in here, that it doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a dawdling pace and someone's going to be loose up front. Do you agree with that? How do you project the front end of this field is looking once they're about a quarter of a mile in?
Well, you look at the strategy, you look at the last race, and we all thought, I forget the horse, the outside horse was going to lead, and Mizzen Bay went to the lead. And you look at when it's worked in the past, especially on turf, and another time has a post edge over the other one. Emily mentioned the 8 in terms of having gone wire to wire, almost missing by a neck on the wire in the Nassau. And you look inside, you don't see any early horses. So I think the strategy is going to have to, especially back on the turf, they're going to go back to what was almost won the Nassau, which is put the 5 on the lead. And I think if there's no pressure, again, if Bold Script doesn't go, this might be a very easy lead. When she ran the Nassau, she ran 46 with a half, 109. I'm not sure how the track was playing that day. And then she went 47 stalking before that in her comeback after 2.5 months off. I could see the 5 going here and being all alone. And
let me hold you there just 1 second. Emily, do you know how the track was playing that day? Was that sort of track aided, that Nassau effort?
It to some extent, yeah, because she was pressed by the eventual winner of that race. She was the winner of the race, was sitting kind of right off of another time. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Sorry, Ellis.
And
they got away with the slow opening half mile that day.
Yeah. It may make the case then without pressure. Another time has enough left to win. She's won around 2 turns. She won the classified allowance in June, almost the Nassau. The last 2 are all weather. She's back on the grass, where arguably she's done her best running. 2 wins in the second out of her 4-win career, but particularly recently, for 3 of her last 4 big races have been on the grass. So I actually like her a little bit. I would take a shot. Back to Cambier Park, the stats are all good. It's interesting when you look at Chad Brown, and I did a bunch of things on him. Overall, he's really good. 24 for 76 off 8 months to a year in turf routes, 5 for 14 in graded stakes. But interestingly enough, at Woodbine, going back, he's only 5 for 37 in graded stakes the last 5 years. And so I'm not sure. This is the obvious spot for her, but he has got a built-in excuse to say, oh, well, she's been off since October. She was a little short. And at 4 to 5, I could see he's taking a stand against her, or just using her on the bottom of exactas if you wanted to do that. My top pick is going to be Another Time, though, by the way.
Okay. Yeah. I think there's a case to be made for that one. As I'm looking up and I'm seeing, 8 to 1, 9 to 1, certainly that's attractive. My pick in this race originally was Elizabeth Way, and I think there are reasons to like Elizabeth Way. I think, at least to my eyes, she's the logical alternative to Cambier Park. But if you want a price in here, and if you're looking at projecting a pace that may benefit one of these prices, I think Another Time is probably that horse. JD, some may have noticed that your screen disappeared for a moment. I know the real reason why you stepped away, but I also know that I can accuse you of stepping away to have gotten a refill on your beverages, because I know you made a special order of beer for today specifically. So we want to take a look at what you actually have today and what you're drinking. So
the beer is right here. So there's no need to deviate.
Show it to us. We got you full screen now.
Okay, so we've got a Sippin' Pretty from Odell in Colorado. So this is out of Fort Collins. This is a sour. And then what we have here is a local Arizona beer. We have Tio Osos, which is a Mexican-style lager from Uncle Bear's Brewery out of Phoenix. So that's what we got. That's what we got brewing here today.
Nice. Well played. Ellis, you got a beverage next to you, or are you going dry today?
I'm going dry for now. I was going to go grab a milk stout, which is my go-to when my air conditioning's out, but I'm just drinking lemonade instead.
Could use a cold drink on a day like today. I mentioned to JD before we were live, I started using this app Tavor, where you could just get all these sorts of unique beers from random places. And so I'm drinking this one at the moment. I don't know if anyone recognizes. Well, I should probably go. Let me go full screen on this just so I can get it better. Okay. Untitled Art. How do you pronounce that word, JD?
Weiss.
Okay, Weiss. I'll go with Weiss. It's a really interesting beer. It's by Untitled Art in Waunakee. Waunakee? Any Wisconsin people here? Waunakee, Wisconsin.
I can get my wife in here. That's about it.
I mean, it's sour. It's sweet. It's really. There's a lot going on in this cup, but it's real tasty. It's really, really good. If you're in the comments section here, let us know. Are you having a drink on this warm Queen's Plate 2020 day? If so, what are you drinking? What is your drink of choice today? Want to mention?
Woodbine,
go ahead.
What's the weather at Woodbine? Anybody got the report? I'm just curious. We're talking about.
I have. I'm watching it. It's 20 Celsius right now at Woodbine. I've been watching the wind gusts. The wind right now is 17 miles an hour out of the east, gusting to 26. There's a slight chance of rain, which is why I have it up. It's going to rain after they're done racing for the day.
Can you remind us what 20 Celsius?
Well, as soon as I punch it in, because I didn't realize it was Celsius on the page I was at, so I wanted everybody to do the math. It's 68, so it's a perfect day for racing on the
awesome.
Tapeta.
Great.
If we're gonna go back to the race real quick, because Ashley was on. Are we ready for that? I'm drinking water. If anyone.
Well, that's why I didn't ask. Obviously.
And it just.
You're talking about this race or the Queen's Plate?
No, well, it's race 9. One step at a time.
She loves Amalfi Coast, right? That's her horse.
That's right. Yeah, I wanted to bring up that horse for her and give her, credit for that horse. She liked her. I think it was the second start off the layoff, and does have some back form. But just wanted to throw that out there as an alternative, in this race if you're looking to kind of play against the big favorite.
Well, let me give you one more crazy price here. If you're looking to play, play this race in another creative way. This is not a horse who I think can win, and so I did not include her in my pick 5 ticket. But I think she can factor. The 2-horse Court Return. Contreras won by 8 lengths aboard this one, 2 back in her maiden win. It's her first start of the year. She then came back and won a restricted stakes race. She definitely, at least to my eyes, looks like a different horse than she was last year. Is she good enough to step up and win a grade 2? It might be a stretch, but if you're looking for a horse who appears to be in good form, is about to get the acid test, and you're like, you know what, hey, look, I'll take a shot with a horse who seems to be moving in the right direction and doing well, this is one who you may want to throw in underneath. I mean, if you look at her by any metric, any speed figures you use, she's probably not going to stack up, but I could see her, kind of clunking up for a piece of it late.
In my dead pick 3, I had 2, 3, 5, 10. I had used her because I wanted to use both Josie Carroll's horses, and then especially since she scratched Runaway Dancer, the jockey change Fukumoto back to Contreras. Even though it was a good win, ridden out the last 2 races. It is a jump up, but I just said can't take it like the Dam. By the way, for those interested. The Dam produced Channelmaker and Johnny Bear, who was good up to about 12 furlongs, if I remember, at Woodbine, won a bunch of stakes. So this horse really could even run longer, but definitely just a 4-year-old filly who still has a future because that breeding is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I felt the same way as far as your case for the 2. I felt the same way with the 4. It's a filly going back to last year that I caught the eye and was like, she's, got some ability to her, actually even going back, to Gulfstream early on. And really, I mean, she was got a bit of a run off with the 3 here in the warm up. last night she was so much the best, and it was the type of effort that could see her step up in class. But this is going to be a real big test for her. But I if you're kind of making the same case of one that's maybe a little bit, not quite there in terms of speed figures, the number 4, I think the price is just too massive right now. She's on the improve and can definitely take a step forward off that allowance win.
JD, you have a bomb you're looking at here?
I'm really on Arv almost, and I was actually just punching a wager, punching a trifecta key box, and you guys talk about the 2 and the 4 after I'm done. So what I have here is I have a trifecta key box, which is 9 with 3, 5, 6, 10. If you're playing that for the 20-cent base, that's $7.20 for a trifecta key box. In this one, I do like Art of Almost. I think we're going to get the trip that this horse needs. Obviously, last time in the Dance Smartly, just a slow pace, not much to run into, kind of just ran one paced. But I do think another time in Bold Script are going to, duel enough up top that I think there'll be enough pace for Art of Almost to come in and pick up the pieces.
As I mentioned at the top here of our show, Woodbine Live, Queen's Plate 2020. If you're watching and you have any questions as you're listening to all of our ace handicappers go through their analysis and their picks, just don't hesitate to just type them in the comments. This is a place to learn. This is a place to share opinions, open forum for everybody. So feel free to hop in with any questions you might have, and we'll certainly answer them. Coming up next is the feature. The Queen's Plate coming up is the first leg of the Canadian Triple Crown. The second leg of the Canadian Triple Crown is the Prince of Wales Stakes. That'll be on Tuesday, September 29th at Fort Erie, where you could also catch Ashley Mayu all the time. Ashley will be back. Actually, she'll be popping in later on. I didn't want to totally give it away, but I'll just give it away. If you're hanging around waiting for Ashley, she is going to pop in at some point before the Queen's Plate from an undisclosed location. She gets to enjoy herself on this Saturday and pop in from that location. And so, assuming that the signal is strong enough, we'll have some last-minute input from Ashley coming up closer to the Queen's Plate. The third leg of the Canadian Triple Crown is the Breeder Stakes at Woodbine on Saturday, October 24th. So really, over the course of the next month and a half, we'll get to see a number of these horses. I'm sure that are running today. You'll see returning for at least that next leg, the Prince of Wales, and potentially for all 3 legs. So the Canadian Triple Crown kicking off today with the Queen's Plate. And one more reminder: stick around. Once we're done here, there are still a couple of races to go at Woodbine. The last race of the day, race 13, a mandatory payout in the jackpot high 5. A lot of money already in that pool. So if you want to get in on a big, big pool with a lot of dead money in it already, that'll be the one for you. And as I also mentioned earlier, if you're playing on Dark Horse today, get a screen grab of any winning wager, tweet it at Dark Horse app, and you could win $10,000. All right.
I will say I wanted to correct my trifecta key because actually I gave out the wrong thing, and Inside the Pylons brought it up. Yeah, I do hate the 10 here. So my trifecta key box is 9 with 3, 5, 6, 8. That's what I punched. I don't know why I said 10.
All right. Let's see.
Let me give you a quick update on something in case anybody's interested. Got Stormy just won the Kentucky Downs Ladies Sprint.
I was good that you reminded me of that, because I know you've been handicapping Kentucky Downs. We were talking before you got on, before we were live, that for a lot of us, Kentucky Downs is a complete enigma. It's a really difficult one to pin down.
Just a comment.
No, it's good to know.
Well, it's good because a lot of people question that cutback, why she's running in that race, and she just pretty much trounced them at 9-5.
So let me ask you this, and before I do, I want to say we have a special guest who has just hopped into the green room. If she can see us, give us a thumbs up. Okay, she's there. We'll ask her to hang tight for us. We'll wait for the 9th race to finish, and we'll bring her into the stream. But Ellis, what are some, do you have any just sort of basic tips or advice you'd give anyone who's playing Kentucky Downs? Because it is it's a difficult track. So.
We have a big bankroll. That's the
Have
first
a
one.
big bankroll.
Yeah, no, horses shipping out of Saratoga, cutting back, especially now the big, that's 5/16 of a mile to the stretch. Horses that have a kick and certainly class, but it is a race where you just got to be very picky. I've been doing a race of the day, and the first day hit a nice exacta, and the last two I couldn't be anywhere to be found. And this race was chalky. I think the last was fairly chalky as well. It's pretty is. I mean, to say it's for the most part, the stakes races are fairly predictable, but unless they're 2-year-olds. But really, there's no advice except for be choosy or have a big bankroll.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And a couple other big races. To be honest with you, I did not get a chance to look at the Kentucky Downs card today. A couple other big races to come, and you have any input on those?
Yeah, well, we have the Kentucky Downs Juvenile Turf Sprint, which is coming up between the Canadian and the Queen's Plate, and then the big one, the $1 million Calumet Farm Kentucky Turf Cup, which is right after we go off the air, which is fantastic race. I like a horse in that race named Hierarchy, along with the logical horse Zulu Alpha, who is just a pro at marathons. A Hierarchy scratched out of a race earlier this week. If we have more time, I can go. And then the last race is their Run Happy Turf Sprint, another Run Happy race. And this is actually a Breeders' Cup when you're in for the turf. And Totally Boss looks like a very solid play in that race.
All right, very good. You got to have action where the action's good and where you're familiar. You got to play what you know. I think this we've talked about this a number of times. The advantage of sticking to one track or one circuit becomes evident pretty quickly once you start learning patterns, and not only patterns with trainers, but basically once you start to learn horses that you see at a circuit. The boutique meets are tough though, because you have horses coming in from all over the place and you don't really get to see them run multiple times over the same track or the same surface. A little tougher to gain that familiarity with them. But Woodbine, and the beauty of this stream that we've done every week now for the past 2.5 months or so, is that we've really gotten an opportunity to learn some of the quirks of the track. We've gotten a chance to see some of these horses repeatedly. Emily knows we've had some horses that we've chased. We've had some horses that have won on one episode and who later on have not run as well. And so it's been cool to at least track the progression of a lot of these horses.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of horses come back. I think right before we went on, there was a horse, Alicia's Kid, that was running in a turf sprint one of the Thursday nights at a big price, and we liked her. It was kind of a little bit. That was one of the days where the inside speed was really good, and he was an outside tracking horse, but won today at a good price, paid like $24. So you do, if you follow the circuit or have trips or subscribe to Optics and get those trips, it does help get your familiarity with the circuit in order to play there with confidence. So the 2 missed the break.
We'll get the sound up here so we can follow along. The Canadian Stakes is off now.
5 behind them. Showing the way is Another Time. Came out in front 3/4 of a length.
Figured that based on the previous turf race.
Almost on their outside, keeping tabs is Cambia Park. Striding into it, Elizabeth Way.
Didn't expect Bold Script to be back as far
Pretty far back
as she is.
With Ride for the Cause, and 4 lengths away last is Quarter Return. Racing with the lead narrowly is still on the inside. Another Time pressed by a.
We're going to have that outside profile come to test with this favorite stuck out there wide the entire way. She'll have to be much the best. Run to her odds.
Still a long way last. 5 behind is Port Return.
On class, much the best. So we'll see if.
Still in front. Another Time Amalfi Coast and Cambia Park on their outside. They sweep away. About 5 lengths.
46 and 2.
Elizabeth Way on the inside, being passed now. Ride for the Cause, chumping home on the inside really well. And Bold Script is off the track. A long last Court Return as the favourites hit the front. Cambia Park rocketing home as Ride for the Cause right around the outside into second as they wheel for the judge. Out in front, Cambia Park. Got out to lead by 2 lengths. Ride for the Cause.
She's in good form. Go with this 4.
Move as they come down the home stretch, and is the big threat. Cambia Park in front. Ride for the Cause. Nippertuck is coming alongside.
Wow.
And Ride for the Cause has hit the front.
Here comes your 2. Also is going to close out this try.
Court Return from last, but Ride for the Cause.
Great call. Great call, Emily.
Today in the Canadian Stakes, Ride for the Cause.
Excellent.
Really
wow, 22 to 1.
Impressive 4 lengths. What a great win. Cambia Park second, Court Return third, Elizabeth Way fourth, then Bold Script out of almost Another Time and last.
Now, Dan, what happened there is very tough for me to do. I picked 5 horses to be in the try in an 8-horse field, and none of them we're in the try. Figure that one out.
It happens. I also used 5 horses in my pick 5 in this leg. Was definitely trying to beat Cambier Park. I thought this was the race to try to land a price, and I landed on a couple of the wrong long shots. I did not find this one, but great call by Emily there, nailing Ride for the Cause at 22-1. Why it pays to watch. Yeah,
again, this is what I've been watching her throughout her career, and just, she just had so many kind of trips throughout, and I kind of just put it together this season. I mean, she just needed at Gulfstream Park, needed to get on the turf, and then just got an absolutely botched ride in her first start here. So I think that's the race where people were like, oh, she's not that good. But the rider just totally screwed that up that day. She probably could have won that race. And then last time out, I mean, it's just so much more dominant visually than it looks on paper for that allowance. So it just signaled, she had that back form. She had some stakes appearance at Gulfstream to kind of put it all together today. But yeah, big effort for her.
Well, very nicely done. We're going to pull that screen down. In a few, we'll get you those payouts, and we will also give you a full preview again, although we've touched on some of what's coming up in the Queen's Plate. We'll go around the room and do even more Queen's Plate coverage. But right now, I wanted to bring in a special guest. Today, the Queen's Plate, obviously, no fans allowed, no attendance, no general admission, just because of, obviously, all sorts of precautions and rules and regulations related to COVID-19. And so fans not allowed on track. But Woodbine has put together a pretty cool program for Queen's Plate at home. And I know one of the participants is the person we are bringing in now. Hello. Drink in hand.
Yes. Hey, guys. Thanks so much for having me on. I was watching you broadcast that last race, and I was then just seeing myself and thinking, maybe I'm a little overdressed for the occasion, but c'est la vie. You gotta, if you have a horse suit, I think you have to wear it for an event like this. So we've been having a lot of fun on Woodbine's Instagram page, and I have a whole spread here of cupcakes and pig in a blanket, all that kind of stuff. And then this is our cocktail, the Royal Blush, which is the official cocktail, of course, of the Queen's Plate. So we have to have that. To be able to bet on horses, you have to have all of these things as well.
Love it. I know the feeling of being overdressed, but I can tell you what, we all had intentions of dressing. I mean, J.D. had indicated he was dressing up, and then once he saw us, he also he's wearing a tie at least.
He's got a tie, yeah.
With champagne on it. I mean, come on.
There you go. Well, let me give you the formal introduction here. Julie Stewart-Banks, host of Drinks with Binks on Fubo TV.
It makes sense. Yeah.
It really does. I love that name. You can't really beat that. She's previously worked at ESPN, Fox Sports 1, and CBS Sports. But it seems like, just kind of looking into a little bit of your background, you've got a little horse racing in it, right? You knew Binkster, and what's the story with Binkster?
Yeah, it's it's kind of a funny one, obviously, because my last name is Stewart Banks, but the Binks part, when I saw Binkster sort of come out onto the scene when he was racing at Belmont Stakes, I said, wow, this horse kind of has a similar last name to me. So I started then just tweeting about the horse and saying my boy Binkster and my brother and all this kind of stuff. And then the owners and the trainers reached out to me and we kind of started just talking over Twitter. And then at Saratoga last year, I went out to the first, when it was opening, and I was able to go into the paddock. I met Binkster. I was with sort of every single person with Randall Manor, and it was neat. It was like I was part of the family, even though we're technically obviously not related. That's a horse and I'm a person. But I've sort of been able to then, it whet my palate. I'd never even been to a horse race before that. And I saw sort of just the excitement and the allure of betting on horses and even just getting into the storylines, because that's what's been really interesting leading up to the Queen's Plate, because I'm a novice. I didn't know anything about any of these horses heading into this race right now. And then learning about their storylines and then sort of trying to see what kind of potential they have going forward. And then adding in a pandemic, right? Like I was just watching CTV and hearing Brian Williams discuss the fact that there has been such a difference in the timeline, right, of when these horses were supposed to race. What does that mean for sort of their development or what we can expect? And that's what I'd be curious for you guys. Like, you would think who would win in your estimation when this was supposed to run versus now? Like, how much of an effect does the layoff have to whoever's going to win this?
I have a really good theory on that. I always look at in progression in the U.S. in terms of and in Canada in terms of the fillies and the colts competing against each other. So the boys and the girls. Early, 2-year-old year, I think very competitive. They're running very similar times. Early 3-year-old year, same thing. And then the late in the 3-year-old year is where we start to see a little bit of separation in terms of the times and the ability, and that's when you often see kind of the split here. So really, I think, and obviously Curlin's Voyage is one of the top picks in this race regardless, but I think Curlin's Voyage would be a very, very heavy favorite if this race was run earlier, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, because I was sort of confused the fact that Clayton had the better odds to win this race, but Curlin's Voyage has just, so many accolades heading into this.
Well, let me add something. You asked a great question, by the way. We talked about this with the Derby last week, the Kentucky Derby, which was the same thing. It was, 4 months late, and horses mature. I think of them as people. And so, 3-year-old males in May are like 15 to 18-year-olds. But in September, since they're really fully mature at 5, they're like 18 to 22-year-olds. They're much more mature. But still, just like with
in
people,
theory.
In theory, that's correct. That's right. Well, so as a sidebar, I do this a lot when I work with groups. I say, look, if you have 2 toddlers and one's like 15 months old and one's 18 months old, it could very easily be the 15-month-old towers over the 18-month-old, or one's kind of still kind of just barely getting it, and the other one's really bright. So there's the mental and physical aspect. But usually, Dan, it has to do with maturity. And just like with people, by the way, Julie, girls are going to be more mature than boys until they catch up. So they would be much more mature than the boys in May, not as mature, not as big of an edge, but they're still more mature physically for the most part. And it's really interesting. I can't answer who would have won it if it had run when it had been run, but you have to take into account that they're much further along relative to how when they get mature at the age of 5 than they would have been when the race is usually run. I don't know. It's no help at all, but I'll answer the question.
Oh, yes, that is something to think about. I played hockey on a boys' team when I was growing up, and I was older than them. So that is the theory that you are saying right there. So I'm all in on Curlin's Voyage today because the future is female. It's girl power. I really like what I'm seeing from this horse, and of course, why would I ever bet against Josie Carroll? But Clayton is sort of he's my villain in my storyline of everything here. And for no other reason, I love a good horse that can run. And of course, Kevin Attard and the Attard family and Sid Attard and all that's a very great storyline. But I want my girl to win. I'm all behind her.
That's awesome. Julie Stewart-Binks here, host of Drinks with Binks on Fubo TV. Julie, I saw on your Twitter where you pinned a tweet from James Corden where he mentions Fubo TV. It was actually really funny, your response to him. Kind of talk about that a little bit. And for those who don't know, what is Fubo TV? And tell people a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, so Fubo TV is a streaming service. Think of it as it's like a Hulu. And then we have Fubo Sports Network. So as if Hulu had a sports network. And on that, I launched 2 shows last year. Actually, it was our anniversary this week. One is Call It a Night, which is sort of a late night sports comedy show. And then Drinks with Binks, which is a sit-down interview show with athletes, comedians, entertainers over a drink of their choice. We had Dan Patrick this week, who's a legendary sports broadcaster. And so Fubo, though, is, it's a little bit more unknown. And so James Corden went on sort of a rant a couple months ago saying, we have too many streaming services and we want to have a petition against new streaming services. And one of them he mentioned was Fubo. And he said, he pointed us out. And honestly, that is like the best promotion ever for us, right? If you can get somebody to put you down on national TV somewhere, then it creates a bit of a storyline. So then we decided to have a petition back to have him come on our show. That still has not happened, but we have not given a vote yet. But, the idea that we're also a late night show, immigrant host. I'm Canadian. I work in the United States, as he's, of course, British. And so we have a lot of fun with it. And that's what it's all about, right? You want to be able to give people the information, package it up in a way that sometimes if they're not an expert, then they can sort of make it a bit more digestible and fun.
No, I love it. I absolutely love it. And that bit that that clip that you have pinned there is really funny. And I also want to congratulate you on your 100th show, right? The Dan Patrick show is your 100th show?
Well, it's probably been like 1,000 at this point because we end up doing way too much. You know what startups like.
But it was a 1 year, is that it?
It's a 1 year, yeah. So, I mean,
Okay.
against all odds, as I said, we took the under on not being canceled within a year, but it's been very rewarding. You get, when you create your own content, it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But when you see it, you're like, wow, that's cool that I created that. Now you just got to be able to make money doing it, right? That's what we're all trying to do, as we are trying to do here today.
Absolutely.
What a segue. Yeah.
It was beautiful. And I'm going to segue off your segue by saying that's what we do here on Woodbine Live. We've created this show. This is completely new content that didn't exist before. The thing that makes us unique is that we watch horse races live. We react in real time to things we're seeing, to the way that the horses are acting, to the odds board shifts. And in terms of making money, the only person you haven't heard from is our leader, our sort of the master handicapper of this group, and that's Emily Gullikson. And so before we let you go, we want Emily to give you a suggested bet, because we know that's what you're, and she's not going to talk you off of Curlin's Voyage. If you love Curlin's Voyage, stick with Curlin's Voyage, but maybe she'll give you some combinations to play with Curlin's Voyage. Yes,
Emily, I would love your insight. Right now, my high five is Curlin's Voyage, Halo again, Merveilleux, Clayton, and Dotted Line.
As a Canadian, you got to do better than that with Merveilleux, right?
Merveilleux. Okay.
Come on.
Okay.
We should wait for the high five until the carryover. That would be like my first guess. But if you want to play it, that's okay. But they will pay it out later, so that's a better opportunity. And I think in general, if you really like Curlin's Voyage and that's your bet and that's your route, I would just go straight clean win bet and just root her home, because if you like her and then you don't like the horse that runs second, you really don't have another strong opinion underneath, you'll be sad that you didn't cash a ticket. And you're better off just, if you like a horse, rooting for her. Win bet is, in terms of the takeout at Woodbine, one of the best bets.
Okay.
The best bets for your money that you can make on the track. So I would go that way, and especially if you're not against the second choice, which is Clayton.
Yes, I'm not against him. I just feel bad betting for him. I'm like, I can't bet against my gal. Like, I need to be all in on her.
Yeah, there's really no value in taking kind of those first and second choices. That you're better off just sticking straight clean win bet on the horse that you like. That would be my betting advice.
And what about Belichick? What do we got here?
Yeah, I think if you I like that horse. I think, my case was I respect Curlin's Voyage and Clayton in this spot, but I don't fully love them. And so, if it's going to be a horse that's a short price, I want to make sure that, I can kind of eliminate every other horse, and that this is a really strong favorite. And I just don't quite feel that way today, even though they could both win. So I'm looking way outside. I don't want the horses that finish kind of behind those two. That I'm willing to give Belichick a look. He's on the improve. It looks like he's going to get the distance. We've seen the inside play well. He's got an inside draw. He's got some tactical speed. Might just be the right horse at the right price. So I think if you are looking for a price in there, and you like the three as well, that's a good horse to mess around with for your exotics.
Okay. Go ahead.
I think you should bet Merveilleux.
I think we should all just try to say her name repeatedly until we actually get it right.
Because she was in a bit of a logjam. I was told by a source it was sort of like being on the 401. She was a little jammed up, but very, very good engine.
Yes, and she also galloped out in front, which means when a horse has trouble and they finish, when you're running a mile and a quarter for the first time and you finish the race is over and they still are galloping at almost full speed, that's a good sign they're going to like the added distance. So.
And if you're rooting for a story, Julie, I mean, there are lots of angles, and obviously the Attard family and not training a winner in this race, but having, family ties, familial ties to a jockey who's won the race. But I think Holyfield is kind of the my favorite story. And I don't know, have you heard the Holyfield story, Julie? Because it's a good one.
Well, I know about his ear for sure, obviously. But and his mom,
that's the story. Yeah, his mom bit.
Tell the story,
Yeah.
So Holyfield is named Holyfield because Nedashiko, I'm struggling with the mom's name, but at apparently day 2 or day 3 of Holyfield's young existence, a bit part of Holyfield's ear off. Don't know why, don't know how, we don't know, but that's kind of the funny story. And then, obviously the name fits from that famous
Funny
Mike
for us,
Tyson,
at
Evander
least.
Holyfield. Yeah, funny for us, not for the horse.
Yeah.
I think the horse is probably fine with it now, but at day 3, probably not.
Yeah, now he's trying to be the undisputed champion of the Queen's Plate. So
Could do it.
potentially
I
got
actually
our
like-
winner there.
I like Holyfield a lot. I'm going to make a case for Holyfield in a little bit. But
You're
it's-
confusing the heck out of our guests.
yeah, I know we've given you way too many horses. But no,
What about put you all on like hot seat right now. Who's got it?
I can start Halo again and Holyfield if you're looking for a price. Those would be the ones I'd put you on. Emily? Just 2 horses.
Oh, 2 horses. We talked about Belichick, and the other horse is a crazy long shot in here. The number 11, FF Fletcher. I would say probably the 8 is a little bit more logical, but FF Fletcher just kind of seems maybe he's on the improve. Was facing good horses down at Oaklawn Park. If we're looking for some chaos, why not? But one of the slower horses in the field has to really kind of show up today.
Ellis?
Girl power, Merve U and Curlin's Voyage.
All right. JD?
I'm Halo again up top, and Tecumseh's War, the 14 horse. If that horse is not broken out of the gates well at all, and if that horse actually breaks and doesn't have trouble, that could be very, very tough for the rest of the field.
Well,
Yeah. I
we've
noticed
given
none
you-
of you guys said Clayton at all.
Yeah, we're all trying to beat Clayton. And I think we've got reasons.
It's a betting
But-
thing. Not that we don't
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
9-2 right now on Clayton. Do you want Clayton at 9-2,
Oh.
Ellis?
Yeah, I would probably consider that.
Not
I
terrible.
made him 3-1, so yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I heard he has a bit of a temperament. At least that's what the word on the street is.
All right.
He's very what we call green. He's still figuring things out. He tosses his head around. It's not the prettiest run you're ever going to see, but so far he's got the job done. There's a lot of talent there, and he's not really necessarily beating horses as much as we think he could, but he's still figuring it out in the head, basically, is
Okay.
what we mean when we say a horse is green.
And one last question from me. How, with no fans being there, how will that affect the horses that are like used to seeing fans?
Well, I can only
I
say
don't,
like
I don't think
from
it
the-
affects them at all.
It actually affects them positively, believe it or not. The Kentucky Derby was an example. Not that they're not, during the regular race, they have to come out with during the week, I get used to people screaming, and even that's not enough. Woodbine would have a huge crowd. What they like to say is, honestly, no horse is going to lose its mind today, which might be the case with the big crowd. So and the weather is fantastic right now. It's about 70, I think
Perfect.
JD told us. So yeah.
Julie, let me say I absolutely love that you came with questions, and like that's what we try to tell people all the time. Like there are no stupid questions. Like you can. This is such a complicated game to understand,
Yeah.
right? Like just throw your questions out there, and just whatever. Like these are the people to ask, right?
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of people watching this now are like, "Oh, get this person up here! I need my inside stuff." But my boyfriend is a degenerate horse racing gambler, and that has been an interesting silver lining of the pandemic. Is we watch horse racing every single weekend /
I was
anytime
wondering,
it's on. So
yeah. It sounded like you were kind of playing down I mean.
I think I upplayed my ability of what I'm my connections and my insight, but I will say that unfortunately the Dark Horse app is not available in the United States yet, or else he would be just
Firing
putting
away.
all of our rent money toward there. So I guess that's a good sign now. But I've set my mom up on it, so we're gonna
Awesome.
we've been putting a lot of money out there.
Well,
No
like we've
wins
been-
yet, but
Well, like we've been telling people, when you get that win, you got to get a screen capture of it, and then you tweet it at Dark Horse app with the hashtag Win with Dark Horse until the end of tonight. If you put a tweet out with a winning ticket, no matter what the winning ticket is, if you win $1, you tweet it. They're gonna pick one person and just give that person $10,000. And I saw the number of people who've used that hashtag and have tweeted it. It's less than 100 people right now. So you have a
that's
1 in
great
100
insight.
chance at this moment to win $10,000. If you're watching,
if you win, if you also have already won.
Yeah,
So,
but you could win. I mean,
but yeah,
you could bet
we
a
can,
$2
okay.
show bet on a horse, or you
Okay.
could actually bet $2 to win on every horse to give yourself a
Yes.
chance to win $10,000. That's what, if I was in Canada right now, that's what I'd be doing. So
Okay. That's what I think. That's what we'll go do. Once we down a couple more of these royal blushes, we'll put our money on every single horse there is.
that's the way to do it. Julie Stewart-Binks, catch her on Drinks with Binks on Fubo TV. Julie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and I hope we could do this again. Enjoy the rest of Queen's Plate Day.
Sure. Thank you guys so much for having me on. Thank you so much for the insight and answering my questions, and good luck in all your bets, because I am going to bet them now. And then if they don't work out, I will then talk to you about it later.
Well, you have the stream link.
Pen in hand, the number 9 she was listening.
You can become another one of our Twitter trolls. It's okay.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I know. I'm sure there's many of them. I have them too. All right. Take care, guys.
All right, Julie. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye, Julie.
All right. Well, that was a lot of fun. And she's surprised. She was, when I was first introduced to her, it was like, hey, it's this, radio and TV personality who's going to come on and talk a little bit about what they're doing to celebrate Queen's Plate from home. I didn't realize she did have an absolute ton of institutional knowledge. She certainly knew what she was talking about, and she had some great questions. So I was glad we could answer some of those questions.
Well prepared. Very well prepared.
Absolutely. So, look, that sets us up exactly 23 minutes from the big one, the Queen's Plate, the first leg of the Canadian Triple Crown. We've got a pretty large audience watching us right now. I see the ticker on all of our channels here, and combined, we've got a good audience watching us here. If you have any questions, send them in. If you want to share the horses you're betting, send them in. Post in the comments section. Let us know what you think. We've also shared the link to the ABR Queen's Plate cheat sheet, which will give you a quick summary, a snapshot of each horse in the race. Check that out on America's Best Racing. But let's go through this field one time. Emily, I know we've talked about the horses we like. Do you want to just go up and down the field for us, starting with the rail horse Sweeping Hard?
Sure. Should we just, as a group, kind of go through horse by horse? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, let's just go through. Let's do one horse at a time. Sweeping Hard. What do you say? Yay or nay?
All right.
Or?
I think as an individual, he's a good horse. I think this is going to be a really tough spot for him. I liked him last time out because I thought the maiden win was better than looked. And overall, I just think he's a good horse, but not this afternoon.
Okay.
My comment on Sweeping Hard is if he somehow wins this race, he will have 2 wins, which is as much as his Sire and Dam have combined.
Okay, yeah. It seems like Sweeping Hard. I'm gonna hard pass on Sweeping Hard. Merveilleux, just because Ellis loves saying the name. We're gonna let you start. Merveilleux, Ellis. I guess a thumbs up from you.
Lots of thumbs up. Had to wait for room. Couldn't beat Curlin's Voyage. Curlin's Voyage got a good outside trip. Merveilleux inside. Galloped out on top. Big workouts. 58.2. Second best 79. 47 flat. Best 77. Can't be any more fit than, and gets a good post here. Going to be up closer this time. Just hope that Kazushi Kimura can get a little better trip than Hernandez got last time out. Right now, 6-1.
Anyone else like Merveilleux?
Overall, she kind of has to prove it to me. I think the last time out, I think the trip, it was what it was, but it was a little bit aided just by the way the race shape was and then the flow weight. But I do think it is going to be to her advantage, this pace scenario, being inside and being able to show more tactical speed. Last time out, she kind of changed running styles, and actually the time before that, she changed running styles as well because she was supposed to be one of the pace setters that afternoon. They let the other pace setter go free in this lane. So I think she's going to be closer to the pace, and I think that might help her out. I just, as an individual, I just have a really hard time getting excited about her, and I think that would be her best chance to trip out, but the 6-1 just doesn't do it for me. Not enough meat on the bone.
Look, I agree, JD. You could hop in a second. I was just going to say I agree. I think that she is fast enough to stay close early. We'll see what she does. Note, rider change. Hernandez rode her in her last 5 races. He hops off to ride Clayton, so Kazushi Kimura lands here. Yeah, but still, I'm just in terms of pace and whether there's a change in riding tactics. Maybe Kimura tries to revert back to being a little closer to the pace, since she does have that back form running well closer to the pace. I don't know. That's the only reason I throw that out there. JD?
Yeah, I think must use underneath. I think it's tough to look back at 2-year-old Fulham and take too much stake at this stage of the game on it. Look at the Lassie Stakes in December. You got everything she wanted, and there's some legitimate excuses that race for Curlin's Voyage, and Curlin's Voyage still got up by a head. So I do respect Mervalu. I think she's going to be in the mix. I just think Curlin's Voyage is a little bit better.
All right, question for the audience. Whose pronunciation do you like best? We'll come back to that. The 3-horse, Belichick. We know that Emily likes Belichick. Anything else you want to add to what you've already said?
Yeah, I feel like I've said enough. And it's really like almost, the angle of kind of, a lesser of two evils type thing. But I just kind of think, moving forward should appreciate this type of ground and just might be in the right place at the right time for this type of race if there's some chaos.
Ellis?
Another one, almost like Sweeping Hard. I mean, just a big move in a race and going from maiden to stake, bred good, and certainly bred to run a mile and a half, practically, at 11 drop kid, but good for the minors, not much else. Sorry, Jamie, if you're listening.
Yeah, I just think, honestly, Ellis touched on it. I mean, this horse is going to get better as he gets more experience and goes longer, but I don't think today's the day yet. I think it's a big task for the maiden to come in with just 2 races in this spot.
That's sorry, Jamie. You heard from Ellis. For Jamie Roth, L&J Foxwoods Powerhouse Ownership Group own a number of nice horses that have run well over the past few years, including Covfefe, who I'm sure many of you watching are familiar with. Look, I think it's a bit of a long shot here, but after what we saw the last race and after what I've seen the past 12 weeks with Emily, I would not at all overlook any horse she gives you at 20 to 1 or higher. So consider that. The 4-horse, True Believe, Emily.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back. I straight up believe what all those guys are saying, that yes, this is a big test, but this is where it's just you're hoping for chaos and the price compensates. As far as True Belief, no, I'm toss. Distance isn't right, too slow, class, everything. No advantages in this spot.
Ellis, anything you like there?
No, not off that last race. It's just, first of all, the horse was running a claiming race to start. Sorry, taking a shot, but I don't think you can get there from here, from that fifth place finish, 14 back.
JD, anything?
I'd love to see this horse try turf.
Okay, good enough. I've teased repeatedly that I like Holyfield. I could go out and make the case here just briefly. Broke his maiden last out over the turf by a head in his prior 2 starts. He's finished 3rd and 4th on the all-weather to the likes of Ollie My Boy, Mighty Heart, and Belichick. In the race 2 back, he did enjoy a much better trip, ground-saving trip nearer the pace than Ollie's My Boy or Belichick. But it took Holyfield a little while to get moving, and I thought he finished up really, really well and galloped out nicely, which is something we've touched on and that Ellis mentioned a few moments ago. That was at a mile and an eighth. So I think he might just enjoy more distance. He's one of the few in here who I have zero questions about them being able to get this distance here, this race. In the race 3 back, July 11th, Mighty Heart won. Holyfield was super wide into the first turn and stayed wide. He battled on to finish 3rd. He's got a lot of guts. I really feel like he's a horse who can overcome some adversity, and he seems a bit more mature than the rest of these, at least visually. And again, like I said, it looks like he's got the stamina to make this distance, in particular, a mile and a quarter. I think a number of these horses are going to be really just stopped dead in their tracks once they hit that mile and a 16th, mile and an eighth. I think Holyfield is one you don't have to worry about. He's going to be doing good running late. So that's my case for Holyfield, sitting right now at 41 to 1. Emily.
No, I like the case that you made, and I think it's super smart covering all those bases. I mean, you just have a horse that has seasoning, that has foundation, that's improved with every race this year, and I think you just made a good case for it. And I mean, you're getting more than a fair price right now in this spot.
Ellis?
We're talking about Holyfield? I'm sorry.
you can hurt my feelings if you want. It's okay. Go for it. You can just say no.
It's the same thing. I mean, I maiden to stakes, even at this level, it's just tough for me to make a case. Mm-hmm. You got to have something against winners, and that's the reason why I wouldn't be interested.
JD, as we go to you, I'm going to place some of the predictions and the picks that some of our viewers are sending in. But JD, any thoughts on Holyfield?
Yeah, I mean, I have Holyfield as my fourth choice here. I like horses. If you look back and look at the replays of the last 4 races, you can visually see progression and that the horse is figuring things out. Is this a big spot? Yes, but I like this horse at 42, now 41 to 1. If this horse was 15 to 1, I'm probably going to have some more trepidation towards it, but I think at a long shot, I think there's a good chance to hit the board based on the running style and the pace. Scenario of, I mean, this horse could end up being near or on the pace even. I mean, we don't really know. I think there's enough tactical speed here potentially on this horse, and this horse can also close. We've kind of seen both out of this horse. So I'm curious and interested, but, underneath usage, definitely.
Current third choice is Halo again, the 6 horse. JD and I have both expressed an interest in this one, thought that he could be well positioned here with some speed to run a big race. Emily, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I know you guys feel strongly about him in here, and I respect that. I mean, I can see the progression. He's been running in, a lot of the common races. I just have a hard time just in terms of like really liking him in this spot because he had such a favorable trip winning the Queenston, and then last time out, I just felt like there was really no excuse. He was on the pace. It was a moderate pace. I just kind of needed to see more from him, and I kind of just have felt that way throughout his career, where there's no race that I can really knock, but there's just not anything that gets me like really excited about him. And I think his best chance in here is having that foundation, being fit, having tactical speed, and maybe that just gets the trip for him.
Yep. Ellis,
I got to duplicate what Emily said. I used him in all my multis. Certainly winning the Coronation second time out, going from 7 to 9 furlongs as a 2-year-old was great. Then tried Dirt, which was a total bomb. The Jeff Ruby off a bad race, he wasn't going to get there. Matured a lot, came back and won the Queenston. But, as far as I'll use figures, for example, just like with 3-year-old Derby types, I want to see an improvement. And his Echo Base is a 94-93. He couldn't get by Clayton. The price does make me feel better about him, but there's better value here. I'm on the fence. I can't bet him to win. I certainly did play him in some trifectas, which when we get to bets, I'll tell you what the 2 trifectas I played in the race. And I got him in second and turned around with my 2 big picks. And that's how I feel about Halo again.
JD, we both made the case for this horse, so let's just move on. And I'll let you get the first take on the 7 horse, Glorious Tribute, 75 to 1.
Thanks. I mean, looking at positives, no, I mean, you look at, 3.5 back from Clayton last time out, and you go back to on July 4th, 4.5 back from Halo again. I mean, this horse has ran decent races against this field, so I think this is a horse. I hate the term outrun your odds, but I mean, this is a horse that honestly could finish 6th or 7th, and that's outrunning your odds in some people's eyes. I mean, that doesn't hit the board or do anything for you from a wagering perspective.
Yeah,
I mean, there's probably some
7th or 13th pays the same, but I don't know.
I mean, there's some book and Uzbekistan that you probably can, but that I'm not aware of. But yeah, I think
you are aware of.
I think this is the middle. This is a mid-pack horse, and could it come up for? I mean, if there was a high 5 in this, could this horse finish 5th? Sure, but I mean, this is not a win candidate.
Okay, let's just keep this short and sweet. Ellis, Emily, can either of you make a case for this horse?
No, I can't. No, I'll be very short.
All right.
I think he's run average against the other horses. I won't quite say good, so he looks below to me.
All right, let's move on to Ollie's my boy. Emily, I know you've made a couple of comments about this horse already. Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, this is just another. If you kind of compare him with like Glorious Tribute, right? You have a horse who's been at the stakes level and shown he can't compete with the other horses, so you sort of know he can't do it. And with a horse like Ollie, my boy, Holyfield, Belichick, we're making the case that we haven't seen them. At least we know they can't do it, right? Like we know some of these.
Oh no! Are we frozen? We're frozen.
Emily's frozen.
Come back, Emily. It is Emily, right? Hers is frozen. It's not just us. Okay. All right. Hopefully she'll come back. Maybe it was due to interference from this person.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Ashley, did you make Emily freeze?
I don't know. No, she already froze before you let me in. I just saw her start talking about Glorious Tribute and Ollie, my boy, and then she just went silent.
All right. Well, hopefully she'll come back in a moment. Ashley Mayu, of course, co-host of this very Woodbine live show every week throughout the season. Joining us today from an undisclosed location, unless you want to disclose that location.
It is a brewery. I will not disclose the location. They're not a sponsor of the show. I always get yelled at for that. So they have peach cider. So that's what I'm drinking and just enjoying the weather since it's 80. This morning when I woke up, it was 46. So got to enjoy the last couple days of summer.
Enjoy. You got the shades on, looking very cool. The hair blowing.
I don't know if that's cool. But I do need updated odds since you guys might have that.
Sure. Yeah. We're going through the entire field. We're up to the ninth horse, Dotted Line, who's currently 14-1. I will tell you the favorite in the race right now is Curlin's Voyage, the 10 horse, 2-1. And then behind that one, you've got Clayton at 9-2. So the price drifted up a bit on Clayton. And then you've got Halo Again and Merveilleux at 5-1. You want to take a shot at saying Merveilleux? We've all been struggling with it.
It's Merveilleux. That's what it is.
Okay. Well,
I've already looked it up.
It sounds
it's like kind of like my name. Almost.
It sounds like a name we know. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
No, I made sure I Googled it before I went on JD and Andrew's podcast the other night.
We know, and we said this already, that you like Halo Again here. How would you bet this race? I just gave you a couple of updated odds there. You're getting 5-1 right now in Halo Again. You just make a straight win bet here?
No, I think I do maybe a couple bucks to win. When JD and I talked about the race with Andrew, I kind of said, for me, I really think he's a top 2 horse. So for me, underneath, I'd use Merveilleux, Clayton, and Curlin's Voyage, which I know it's the 4 chalks, and I hate to do that, but I'd probably back wheel it too in case he runs second. And then as far as the tries concerned, I thought there were price horses to use underneath. One of them's Dotted Line, who I think at 14-1 is interesting. I think was 8-1 morning line and looks to possibly be part of the pace scenario. And that's something we've talked about before. We touched upon just yesterday how we thought the pace of the race was going to unfold, because I thought on paper it's a little murky and hard to distinguish. And I'm curious to see what Ellis's opinion on that is. But I think that was a horse I'd use underneath. Tecumseh's War. No, you're not excited that Amazon Tecumseh's War and got off of the horse that you like, Dan, but I thought that was a live horse underneath for third. And then I know Emily had mentioned the horse before, Belichick. I mean, I'm sure the horse is a huge price. Horse is a maiden. I'd use the horse for third, and if I was playing a super or something like that, I'd definitely use the horse for fourth. But for me, the price shopping was more for the third spot in the try.
Fair enough. Emily, welcome back.
Thank you.
We're on, I believe, Dotted Line. Am I correct? JD, you want to jump on Dotted Line, and then we'll kick it around?
Yep. So for Dotted Line, obviously, half length behind Clayton and just behind Halo Again. Last time out on August 15th in the plate trial. Strong performance there. I think we're seeing, a bit of a drift in the odds, basically getting, almost double the odds here. I think this is a contender underneath. I think Dotted Line has gotten the race that he wants against these horses and hasn't been able to best them. Including, I talked about Glorious Tribute not being a win candidate, and this horse has lost to Glorious Tribute by multiple open lengths. So, I'm thinking underneath, but not a win candidate for me.
Ellis?
Second or third. I think that the easy pace of the plate trial probably tipped his hand that he's not going to get 10 furlongs, even though Signature Red has had a couple good runners at long distances. I'm sure they'll try and go. And Emily talked about pace. We had no clue earlier. Emily went over this, Ashley. And Dotted Line probably may go. Halo Again may go. I think was it True Believe who I said that's his only asset. I think that's the horse that's probably going to try and get the rail in the lead. And it's going to be really slow.
Emily, anything you'd like to add on that one?
Yeah, no, I have not much. I just think he's a little bit below. You kind of know where he's going to be in the race. Maybe that carries him, but sort of the same thing. I thought he ran the same race as Halo Again last time out. They both had the same trip and same kind of overall effort. I mean, one could make the case if you like Halo Again, maybe you like Dotted Line a little bit more at 14-1, but I'm not really a fan of either.
4 minutes to post now until the Queen's Plate. If you have any questions, now would be the time to send them in. Otherwise, if you want to let us know who you're betting, certainly feel free to share that with us in the comments section. As we move on to the favorite in the field, the 10-horse Curlin's, what a struggle, Curlin's Voyage, 2-1 right now. The winner of your Woodbine Oaks. I think her record speaks for herself. We're all going to try to beat her because that's what we do. We're looking to find a price here. Realistically, I don't think any of us would be surprised if she won. Would we? Anybody?
No, I think that her form, she has the ability to get distance. She's clearly the horse to beat. I just thought last time out, my angle was trying to beat her here is actually, I'm really not trying to beat her. I think she's totally usable. But where she might get beat from that perspective is she's had to work a lot harder than she needed to last time out in the Oaks. She was kind of much the best in there, and her trip made her just work a little bit harder than she needed to. And what that takes out of her coming back here in 28 days, arguably taking on a tougher field, bigger field, and has to work out a trip. So that was kind of my only concern with her, was just in terms of form cycle coming into this race.
The only person who's mentioned the 11-horse FF Rocket is Emily. I think she's made the case for that one. Anybody else have any thoughts on FF Rocket, or is Emily on her own?
Only that he's a Curlin, just like Curlin's Voyage, and there's no question that 10 furlongs is well within his scope. But going from maiden to stakes, I've already said this stakes is way too tough.
All right. One of the morning line favorites who's not taking as much action, a little cooler on the board, 9-2, 4-1, now down to 7-2, is Clayton, the 12-horse. Why do we think that is, JD? Why is Clayton not the one who's 2-1 or 8-5 right now?
I mean, that's a great question. Earlier in the week, myself and Ashley talked about this, and we thought Clayton was going to be the favorite in this race. I think. Obviously, Curlin's Voyage comes in with a big win and a lot of strong backing in terms of the Queen's Plate. And, you're looking at, I think part of it is just Curlin's Voyage taking some money because obviously, fillies have won 2 of the last 3 years. I think that honestly has an impact here. We've got a very strong filly candidate, and people have seen that it's happened recently in this race pretty consistently. So I think it's more to do about Curlin's Voyage than it is to do about Clayton, that the disparity and this the different odds.
Yeah.
I think the reason is really easy. Merview's down from 10 to 6. Everybody else is up. Truthfully, Halo Again's even. So with Merview going down 4 points, Clayton has to go up if nobody else is moving.
Yeah. Look, Clayton was a couple lengths better, I believe. I don't have the PPs up in front of me. I think it was about 2 lengths better than Halo Again last out. I think at least for those who've watched the replay of the race, the one knock you could have on Clayton in terms of his race, that particular race, is that maybe he got a little, showed a little immaturity once he got to the lead, kind of wandered a little bit, or maybe he tired. But he certainly, at least visually, it looked like they were coming back to him a little bit, or he was coming back to them a little bit. So I don't know. Maybe it's that dynamic that JD that you brought up with the fillies, taking the action and people, sort of general public money going there. But I think there's something to be said for, envisioning this horse going 1.25 miles with some of the immaturity and the quirks. Maybe that's scaring people. Emily, Ashley?
Yeah, I think that's probably a bit of it, just not fully trusting him in this spot. And also he just hasn't really shown a lot of progression in his races. He's still lightly raced, but he's kind of just running the same effort every time. So at this point, it doesn't seem like he has a move forward where you can make that case with some of these other horses that maybe they're on a progression or we just haven't seen the best from him yet. And with Clayton, it kind of seems like what you see is what you get.
Yeah, I agree with Emily there. I just think, his races have been good and he's been impressive, but there hasn't been this giant leap from race to race. Last time out, I liked Halo Again's effort, and JD and I have talked about this just with his re-rally. He tried to re-rally and he showed some more grit, and he lost by half a length. So I feel like just based on that race alone, if you like Clayton, you still got to use Halo Again in some capacity if you're a diehard Clayton fan.
13 horse, Mighty Heart, 23-1 at this moment. Ellis, thoughts on Mighty Heart?
Well, Mighty Heart, and I'll skip ahead. Tecumseh's War just come out of the same race. He hung a little bit. He made a big move from 6th to 1st. They're probably going to be smarter this time and more mature second on the all-weather for the meeting, third off the layoff. And Tecumseh's War, I'll just jump ahead. Got the rail, made a nice burst, and he kind of hung too, but he had a better trip. But outside, I don't know how this can help him because they both look to be horses that race up. I certainly would use them in second and third, especially at good prices right now, 24-1, 11-1.
JD?
Yeah, it's all about the break and the trip. I mean, Mighty Heart has broken outward in several, I think 2 of the 4 starts. So that's interesting, and has Tecumseh's War, who does not break well to the outside. So definitely going to want to be near the pace, but, what kind of break does the 13 or the 14 get? That's the question. That's, to me, one of the big storylines of this race.
Seems like we're handling them both at once. Emily, Mighty Heart and Tecumseh's War combined.
All right. Mighty Heart, I looked at this horse quite a bit because I was just looking for a kind of an outside horse, and I just couldn't quite get there. Just watching his races, just not seeing enough visually. As far as Tecumseh's War, this horse he just does not look like he wants the distance. I'm sorry, but he looks like a horse that wants shorter. So I think from being in that outside post, his breaks are okay in my opinion, but yeah, I just think it's going to be a tough trip from that outside post. He's going to have to use, and he's stamina compromised.
As far as Mighty Heart, I mean, I don't have much to say. I kind of agree with all the comments already made. This wasn't a horse that stood out to me in the races or in the PPs. Tecumseh's War, I mentioned, maybe using for third in a try. I think the concern is the distance and the trips and the break. But, when I was down at Fairgrounds this winter, I talked to Brad Cox, and he had mentioned, the Canadian Triple Crown, and had talked to me a little bit about it. And he said that he had a 3-year-old. And I have a feeling this is the horse. And obviously, has switched barns and moved north for the race. Last time out, I thought the effort was decent, but these are outsiders. I think there's other long shots that, have a better chance.
Yeah. I mean, the one scenario in which I could see Tecumseh's War hanging in for a little bit of it is if indeed he goes to the lead. We talked about this a little bit earlier at 1.25 miles. There are a number of these who are going to be just kind of feeling it as soon as they get to that quarter pole, and certainly by the time they get to the 8th pole, they're going to be really feeling it. And I think that if you apply the logic that a number of these are going to just be slowing down at that point, strategically at least, being on the lead is kind of where you want to be. And so this horse may ultimately back up, but he may not back up far enough to back up out of the exotics entirely. So I think I like him from that perspective. If he can clear with Emma Jane Wilson, who, of course, as J.D. Fox mentioned, has previously won the Queen's Plate on Mike Fox. Mike Fox, is that right?
Yep.
In 2007, is that right?
I had to look up the date to make sure I was right. Hold on. Yeah, 2007. Yep, 2007. Right. You got it.
All right, so looking for number 2 here. They're going into the gate now for the 2020 Queen's Plate, the first leg of the Canadian Triple Crown. Ashley, you're going to stick with us, right? You want the play-by-play from us? You can't do the play-by-play from out there.
I can't do it, so I guess someone else has to give me a race call and some fractions at least.
All right, so let's see who's farthest ahead in terms of timing. I'm seeing the 10-horse Curlin's Voyage load right now with the 5-horse. Are you all about the same place?
I am.
Yeah.
Okay, so anybody could do it then. JD, you're the closest we've got to a real life race caller. You are one. Go for it.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not allowed to show it? I missed that part.
We can't show it. Yeah, not this one. It's on, if you're watching in Canada, it's on TSN and CTV. And if you're watching in the US, it's on TVG. But we are going to give you a race call. No one's told us we can't do that.
Well, yeah, so I'm going to see the break here. They're all in line, and they're off. Everybody got out pretty well. Squeezed a little bit on the inside was Merveilleux. So coming over, crossing over as we expected. Mighty Heart and Tecumseh's War look like they're 1-2 with True Belief up the inside at big odds, over 90-1, 99-1 now. So Mighty Heart gets the lead over Tecumseh's War. I thought they were going to go together. We've got Clayton up in 5th. In the middle there is Glorious Tribute. Inside of Glorious Tribute is Halo again, who kind of got hung back there a little bit. So those are the top 6 moving forward, opening quarter in 23 and 2, as Mighty Heart kind of has it his own way up front with True Belief trying to get a little closer. Now Tecumseh's War is going to bid up here a bit and get a challenge. Now Clayton also on the move up to 4th. Behind them, we've got the duo of Dotted Line and Glorious Tribute. Inside, Merveilleux moving in step with Curlin's Voyage. Very fitting there. Halo, again, way back behind them, and I believe 8th. We've got Belichick looking for room. And towards the back of the field now, moving up a little bit is Ollie My Boy, moving outside of FF Rocket. So the half win in 47 and 3. Mighty Heart still on the motor. Has about a length lead inside True Belief, outside Tecumseh's War. Clayton going to make the move now. On the outside, we also see Curlin's Voyage making the move, and Ollie's My Boy. So all of the closers we talked about starting to make their runs. Mighty Heart still in front, but it's a perilous lead. Clayton is up in second between horses Tecumseh's War. Outside, Curlin's Voyage. It's these 4 to the top of the stretch with some distance on the field.
Oh, Mighty
and
Heart.
Re-breaking is Mighty Heart. Mighty Heart in front by 2, in front by 3, in front by 5. Mighty Heart is gone.
Wow.
Okay, coming on strong for second is Belichick.
Belichick
It will be Clayton in 3rd, holding off Tecumseh's War. Curlin's Voyage finishes 5th.
Emily, tell me you back-wheeled Belichick in the exacta.
No, that trip was brutal. Belichick probably could have won that race. He is brutal, like right from the first call, got stuck in traffic around the turn. I'm surprised he'll win the gallop out. I'm surprised he ran out for second, to be honest, because he could have eased up at a couple points in there. That's just a tough beat, but that's the way it goes. I mean, that's a heads-up ride. I mean, you got to take advantage of that. You have an outside horse, send to the front. I'm always talking about that. You be aggressive, get rewarded.
We couldn't have said it enough times. There was no clear-cut pace in this race. So what you had to do was get to the lead, no matter how fast you went, get to the lead, try to settle things down. Daisuke Fukumoto is one of the sharpest riders at Woodbine. He did what he had to do. He got clear. This horse, looking at what he has done previously, should not have won this race. He won this race because this is a game of pace, and pace above all else. And so Mighty Heart got to the lead and was able to re-kick. And incredible ride by Daisuke Fukumoto on Mighty Heart, who, by the way, was 20 or so to 1 before they broke from the gate. Final odds 13 to 1, so took some late money there. And Belichick, I would say, from all the analysis we've given you, Emily's thoughts on Belichick in particular, getting squeezed at the start, getting shuffled back, also having trouble finding room off the turn to run, and then finally getting clear and making the best move of all from off the pace. Not that makes you feel any better, Emily, but but seriously, great call there on Belichick.
And I'll say too, I mean, Curlin's Voyage, she had a really tough trip as well. She was bumped out and she had trouble into that first turn, forced out even wider. And we've just seen, the way that it's played today, you can't be outside. I mean, even Ollie's My Boy, he's worth upgrading. He was caught wide from off the pace. He made that big move around the turn, kind of notably just with the timing and the ground loss for him to flatten out. But yeah, Trip made it there for sure. Heads up.
I don't want to speculate too much, but I will want to say for those that didn't get to see the race. So Halo again ended up last, and as crossing the wire, we got to look back at the hindquarters from Luis Contreras. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Hopefully everything's okay.
Really?
But definitely eased up at the final 200 meters or so on Halo again.
Never looked like he was really part of the race. We thought he would be forwardly placed. I think he broke with the front and then just steadily just kind of plummeted through the field as the race went on and never mounted a rally. So would not be surprised if there was something that happened there that caused that, because that was certainly not the effort we expected from Halo again. Ashley, we know you couldn't see the race. Quick reactions though to what you heard.
From what I can see, I mean, I remember the opening quarter and the half. I do believe they went a little faster than they did last year. But one bad boy went to the front and took them gate to wire, and we see the same sort of thing this year. But I want to say, yeah, and that's kind of the danger, especially I think there at 1.25 miles. If you can kind of make the lead, and from what it sounds like from the race call and what I heard, it sounded like Mighty Heart did just that and was pretty easy. it was a horse that I would have never played, but I think it's awesome to see Daisuke win this race. I don't even know how many Queen's Plate mounts. It might have been his first, or he's only had, one or two.
Yeah.
But, he gave his try this winter at Aqueduct a little bit and took on New York when Woodbine wasn't racing. And I think that's a great story. And, we'll kind of see what comes out of this race. I'm excited to watch the replay, though, because of Belichick. That was a horse that we talked about, and still a maiden, but to kind of run second in the Queen's Plate as a maiden is a huge thing. And for me, I'm just looking forward to the last Tuesday in September and seeing who comes out of this and who's going to try the dirt for the first time. Only a handful of runners in there had been on the dirt, and we'll see who comes down to Fort Erie on the 29th.
The last Tuesday in September, that's at Ashley's home track, a home game for her, the Prince of Wales Stakes at Fort Erie, Tuesday, September 29th. Ellis, thoughts here?
How about Josie Carroll running 1-2 with the two pretty big prices here, 13 and 26? Just a tremendous training job. She had three. She had Curlin's Voyage, and for those that like the conspiracies, the higher odds horse of the uncoupled entry won. But hats off to Josie Carroll. Great job. I would comment on Merview. She did get, as JD noted, she got squeezed at the start. She got no position. I think Kimura decided at that point to stay. She tried to make a middle move. Nothing happened. In the stretch, she went from, I think, third to last. I think she beat half the field. It's not great, but she had that kick again. I think the traffic problems early did not put her in her position, especially when you needed to be near the lead, apparently, today at Woodbine particularly, but in this race.
I think an interesting thing, Dan, that we didn't really talk about much, but obviously all 100% local jockeys here, and there was a cool little moment between Fukumoto and Slade Callaghan after the wire, both patting each other on the back, because those are two jockeys that have really grinded and to run first, second in the Queen's Plate. That's a cool accomplishment for both of them.
For sure, and we've seen a lot of out-of-town jockeys. Ashley mentioned the winner last year, One Bad Boy. Flavian Pratt came in. I remember a couple of years ago, Julien Leperoux came in. When a local rider wins, there's just that added sense of celebration at the track, and I think it is a really cool story. And Slade Callahan too, another rider who you don't typically see atop the rider standings at Woodbine. So to see him get even a second place finish here with Belichick, pretty impressive, and I'm sure a moment he'll cherish at big odds too. So look, that was certainly interesting. I don't think any of us were quite on that finish. We all essentially thought Mighty Heart was a cut below, and there was really only one path to victory, and Mighty Heart took it, went to the lead, and stayed there in a race where no one else pressed the horse. So there you have it. I want to mention a couple of different things here before we go tonight. There is a mandatory payout of the Jackpot High Five, race 13. If you're like us, you're going to be betting that race because, you're going to try to make up for what has been a very difficult Queen's Plate from a betting perspective. So race 13, mandatory payout in the Jackpot High Five. Stick around for that. And again, I'll mention one more time, if you're in Canada, if you're of legal wagering age, all you got to do is download the Dark Horse app, place a bet. It could be a show bet. It could be a win bet. It could be an exact. It could be whatever you want to do. You win that bet. You take a screen capture of it, and you tweet it to @DarkHorseBet with the hashtag #WinWithDarkHorse. You've got a chance to win $10,000. As I mentioned, you're not in against 10,000 people either. Very good chance to win a big chunk of money if you get on Dark Horse tonight. That runs through the end of the night on the Dark Horse app. So we've got 2 minutes. This has been an incredibly fun run. I don't think I've told Emily and Ashley, but there is one more. We're doing a Queen's Plate preview show on Friday. I can't speak for them as to whether if they'll appear on that show or not. It's going to be a quick show. It's a 45-minute show on Friday. But for all intents and purposes, Woodbine Live is winding down with this, our finale for the big shows that we've been doing. We've been doing the Thursday night shows, and this is one of our bigger, obviously featured shows on Saturday, the Queen's Plate show. So final thoughts. We'll start with Ellis and J.D., and then we'll let Emily and Ashley have the last word. Ellis. I can't hear Ellis. Can you
There
guys
was some
hear? There
great
you go.
racing. There you go. I forgot to have a mute button. There was some great racing and certainly some great performances. I know my handicapping was off, but hats off to Fukumoto on that ride again, taking it to him just as the first race that we watched where Ms. and Bo took him wire to wire. Just going, being aggressive is working at these races today.
JD?
I wish I would have come to the realization that I was on the wrong speed horse when I said it at the very end there as they were loading that Mighty Heart and Tecumseh's War and how they break was one of the storylines of the race. Yeah. I thought Mighty Heart would impact Tecumseh's War, and it was the opposite, and Mighty Heart with a great performance. It was a great race to watch, and excited to see who moves on and wants to try the dirt.
Emily? Ashley?
Okay. I just want to say thanks to everybody that's been following along with Woodbine Live on Thursday nights and getting a lot of feedback. I know it's different, and I think the feedback has been positive on that front. So it kind of tells us, at least for me, that wants to create more content that you guys want to watch, what you're looking for. And I think this type of format aids to that. And I just appreciate everybody that's watching and providing feedback, both good and bad, on that front. In terms of racing, I'm just looking ahead to race 13 because I think everybody should play. I'm not going to do a full analysis, but just trying to look at one horse that might kind of make things interesting. And I would include number 1, Embrace My Uncle. He's 21 on the morning line, has the inside post. Class-wise, maybe is a little bit soft, not like maybe a big key in there, but one you probably want to include. He's going to appreciate getting more ground in this spot this afternoon.
Look at Emily extracting every last moment to give us some analysis here.
By the way, I want to tell you the Josie Carroll Exacta paid $730 for 2.
And I'll tell you what, even better than that, if you're alive in this pick 5, so the pick 5 ending with the Queen's Plate just paid $56,000 for 20 cents. If you played that pick 5 that started with race 8, the 20-cent pick 3 just paid $560. So if you're still alive in that sequence, you're in good position to bring home many thousands of dollars. I also want to say that it was just flagged here that I said that next week we would have a preview show for the Queen's Plate. Obviously, that's the race we just saw. We will naturally be having a preview show for the Woodbine Mile, which is on next Saturday. So thank you for catching that, my friend. Nod to you. Ashley, final thoughts?
Like I said, when we asked about Mighty Heart, I said I don't have much to say. Maybe that was the sign. Got to be happy for the connections, though. I didn't see this horse winning the race. I also didn't see the race unfolding necessarily the way it did. So happy for the connections. Daisuke Fukumoto and Josie, she's an amazing horsewoman. She's always done really good with her stock. So just looking forward to the next race and seeing who continues, and maybe some horses that had poor efforts, they'll do better on the dirt. We'll see.
All right, Ashley checking in today from the brewery. She's checked in every week for us, so we appreciate it. For Ashley, for Emily, for JD, and for Ellis, I'm Dan Tordjman. We're going to leave you on this Queen's Plate day with a little video from Dark Horse. We will see you next time.